Dr. Ji-won Kim stepped off the transport shuttle and into a world she had only seen in training videos. The intergalactic trade station Epsilon 7 stretched out before her like a massive metal flower, floating in the darkness of space. Through the transparent dome above, she could see ships of every shape and size docking and departing. Some looked like enormous crystals. Others seemed to be made of living tissue that pulsed with light. She adjusted the collar of her uniform and tried not to stare at the aliens walking past her. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish drifted by, its tentacles typing on a holographic screen. 3 small beings with too many eyes scurried past carrying boxes. In the distance, something tall and covered in blue fur was arguing with a robot at an information desk. Ji-won was a xenobiologist, which meant she studied alien life forms. She had trained for 5 years to be part of this mission, but training videos were nothing compared to the real thing. Her heart was beating fast with excitement and nervousness. "Dr. Kim, stay close, please," said Hyunwoo Park, walking beside her. He was her security escort, a former detective from Seoul who had joined the space program 3 years ago. He kept his hand near his weapon and his eyes scanned everything around them. "Ambassador Lee wants everyone at the reception hall in 20 minutes. I know, Ji-won said, but she couldn't help stopping to watch a group of aliens that looked like walking crystals. They made musical sounds as they moved, like wind chimes. "This is amazing. Look at them. Their bodies are made of silicon instead of carbon. The possibilities for their biochemistry must be fascinating, I'm sure," Hyunwoo interrupted gently. "But we need to move." The ambassador was very clear about being on time. They walked through the main corridor of the station. The ceiling was high, maybe 50 meters up, and covered with glowing panels that provided light. Shops lined both sides of the corridor, selling everything from food to technology to things Ji-won couldn't identify. The air smelled strange, like a mixture of flowers and metal and something else she couldn't name. Other humans from their delegation were already gathering near the reception hall. Captain Minho Choi stood at the entrance, his military uniform perfectly pressed. He nodded as they approached. "Dr. Kim, Officer Park, good timing. The ambassador is inside already, meeting with some of the council members." The reception hall was enormous. Hundreds of aliens filled the space, separated into small groups. Some were eating at tables filled with food that Ji-won didn't recognize. Others were having conversations through translator devices that floated near their heads. The noise was incredible, a mix of sounds from whistles to roars to electronic beeps. Ambassador Taewon Lee stood in the center of the room, surrounded by tall aliens in formal robes. He saw Ji-won and the others and waved them over. Here's my science team. Please let me introduce you to Ambassador Veltharic of the Velcron people." The Velcron ambassador was massive. He stood almost 8 feet tall with gray skin that looked like rough stone. His arms ended in hands with long fingers tipped with claws that gleamed like polished metal. His face had features similar to a human, but his eyes were much larger and completely black. When he spoke, Ji-won could see rows of sharp teeth. "Humans," Veltharic said, his voice deep and rumbling. The translator made his words sound formal and stiff. "Your species is most unusual. You come from what we classify as a Class 9 death world. Very few intelligent species survive such conditions. We're tougher than we look," Ji-won said with a smile, trying to sound friendly. Veltharic made a sound that might have been laughter. "Yes, the reports suggest—" He stopped suddenly, his large eyes focusing on something behind them. "By the void, where is Crix?" "Crix?" Hyunwoo asked. "My companion animal," Veltharic said, and now his voice sounded worried. "A razorling. He was in his container, but the door is open. He must have escaped." Other aliens nearby heard this and began moving away quickly. Ji-won noticed that many of them looked frightened. Captain Minho's hand went to his weapon. "Is this creature dangerous?" "Extremely," Veltharic said. "Razorlings are apex predators from my homeworld. Crix is young, only the size of your small Earth canines, but his bite carries venom and his spines can pierce armor. He has killed adult Velcrons before. Everyone must remain calm," and a high-pitched shriek cut through the noise of the reception. Aliens scattered in all directions. Through the crowd, Ji-won saw something small and fast moving toward them. It was low to the ground, running on 4 legs with dark purple scales that reflected the light. Its mouth was open, showing crystalline fangs. Spines stood up along its back like a porcupine. The creature fixed its eyes on Ji-won and launched itself through the air directly at her legs. Time seemed to slow down. Ji-won saw Hyunwoo reaching for his weapon. She saw Captain Minho moving to push her aside. She saw Veltharic's face filled with horror, but her body reacted faster than her mind. Her hands shot out and caught the razorling in midair. The creature weighed maybe 5 kilos, about the size of a small terrier. It squirmed in her grip, trying to bite and scratch. Its spines pressed against her uniform, but didn't penetrate the tough fabric. Then Ji-won did something that made the entire room fall completely silent. She laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh or a scared laugh. It was genuine amusement. "Hey there, little guy," she said softly, adjusting her grip so the razorling couldn't hurt itself struggling. She had grown up on a farm in Gangwon province, wrestling with dogs and cats and even the occasional aggressive rooster. This creature was trying to be fierce, but to her it looked like a scared puppy. She found a spot behind what she thought were the razorling's ears and scratched gently. The creature froze. Its spine slowly lowered. Then it made a sound, a deep rumbling that vibrated through its whole body. "Is it purring?" Hyunwoo asked, his voice full of disbelief. His weapon was still in his hand, but he hadn't drawn it completely. Veltharic stared at Ji-won like she had just performed magic. "That's impossible. Razorlings don't purr. They don't allow themselves to be touched. They certainly don't calm down for strangers." Ji-won kept scratching, and the razorling settled in her arms like a contented cat. "He's not so bad. Just scared and in a new place. Right, Crix?" The creature's large eyes, which had been wild and aggressive moments before, now looked almost sleepy. Around them, the reception hall erupted in noise. Aliens were talking excitedly in dozens of languages. Translator devices were beeping and chirping as they tried to keep up. Some aliens were taking pictures with devices Ji-won didn't recognize. Others were backing away even further, as if Ji-won was now more dangerous than the razorling. Ambassador Tae-won Lee looked stunned, but recovered quickly. "Dr. Kim, that was impressive." "I grew up with animals," Ji-won said, handing the now calm razorling back to Veltharic. The Velcran ambassador took his pet carefully, still staring at Ji-won like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve. "On my world," Veltharic said slowly, "we spend years training to handle razorlings safely. Most Velcrans won't touch them at all. You just caught one like it was nothing. Like it was a game," Ji-won shrugged. "I've been bitten by worse things on Earth. Farm animals can be pretty mean when they want to be." Captain Minho stepped closer, speaking quietly. "Dr. Kim, I think you just became very famous very quickly." He was right. Within minutes, video of Ji-won catching the razorling was spreading across the station's networks. By the time the reception ended an hour later, it had reached news services in a dozen star systems. That night, back on their ship, Ji-won sat in her quarters and watched the videos playing on alien news channels. The commentators spoke in languages she didn't understand, but the translator gave her the basic meaning. Words kept appearing over and over. Death world, apex predator, impossible reflexes, dangerous humans. She thought about how the aliens had reacted, not just to her catching Crix, but to her laughing. To her, treating the dangerous creature like a pet. She had done what felt natural, what any person from Earth would do. But to them it was shocking. Hyunwoo knocked on her door and entered when she called out. He sat down across from her, looking tired. "The ambassador wants to see us all tomorrow morning. Apparently the Galactic Council wants to move up our evaluation schedule." "Because I caught a puppy?" Ji-won asked. "Because you caught what they consider a deadly weapon with your bare hands and laughed about it," Hyunwoo corrected. "They want to understand what else humans can do. They want to know if we're dangerous." Ji-won looked back at the screen where her own face smiled back at her from a dozen alien news channels. She had joined this mission to study alien life and help humanity make friends in the galaxy. Instead, her first day had made everyone afraid. "We're not dangerous," she said quietly. "I know that," Hyunwoo said. "You know that, but them? They just saw something they thought was impossible. And now they're wondering what else about humans doesn't match their expectations." Outside the window, the trade station glittered against the darkness of space. Somewhere out there, billions of aliens were watching the same video, having the same thoughts, asking the same questions about humanity. Ji-won had wanted to make a good first impression. She just hadn't expected it to be quite so dramatic. She settled into her bunk and tried to sleep, but her mind kept racing. The morning after the incident with the Razorling, Jiwon woke up to find she had become the most talked about person in the galaxy. Her communication device was flooded with messages. Some were from other humans congratulating her. Others were from aliens she had never met, asking questions or requesting interviews. A few were just strings of symbols her translator couldn't decode. She got dressed and headed to the meeting room where Ambassador Taewon had called everyone together. The room was small, designed for human comfort with normal gravity and familiar furniture. Captain Minho was already there along with Hyunwoo and a woman Jiwon hadn't met before. "Dr. Kim, this is Somin Yoon," Ambassador Taewon said, gesturing to the woman. "She's our xenopsychologist. She studies how different species think and behave." Somin stood and shook Jiwon's hand. She was in her early 30s with sharp, intelligent eyes behind her glasses. "I've been watching the alien response to your video. It's fascinating and a bit concerning." "Concerning how?" Jiwon asked, taking a seat. Somin pulled up a holographic display that showed graphs and charts. "The video has been viewed over 2 billion times across the galactic network. That's in less than 12 hours. But more importantly, look at these response patterns." She highlighted several data points. Aliens aren't just impressed. Many of them are scared. "Scared of what?" "I was helping," Jiwon said. "That's exactly the problem," Ambassador Taewon said, leaning forward. "You were helping, but you did it in a way that should have been impossible. A Threxian military analyst has published a report that's causing quite a stir. It's about Earth and about us." Captain Minho activated another display. This one showed an image of Earth from space with various data points marked around it. "This is what the galaxy sees when they look at our homeworld. Gravity at 1.0 g, which is higher than most spacefaring species evolved in. They usually come from worlds with 0.6 to 0.8 g. "What does that mean?" Jiwon asked. "It means we're stronger," Hyunwoo said. "Our muscles developed to work against higher gravity. What feels normal to us would be exhausting for them." Somin brought up more data. "But it's not just strength. Look at this. Earth's atmospheric oxygen content, the temperature variations, the types of microorganisms. The analyst classified Earth as one of the most hostile inhabited worlds ever discovered. They're calling it a death world." Jiwon felt a chill run down her spine. "That seems extreme." "Is it, though?" Captain Minho asked. "Think about Earth objectively. We have storms that destroy entire cities, earthquakes that crack the ground open, animals that can kill us with venom or claws or teeth, diseases that have wiped out millions of us throughout history. We evolved in a world that was constantly trying to kill us." Ambassador Taewon nodded, and the report points out something else. "Humans are persistence hunters. We evolved to chase prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. No other known species in the galaxy hunted that way. To them it sounds like something from a horror story." Someone pulled up a video clip from an alien news program. The translator converted the speech. "Humans are predators who evolved on a world that made them nearly indestructible by galactic standards. They have forward-facing eyes designed to track prey. They can function with minimal sleep. They voluntarily consume toxins for pleasure, calling them spices. They form pack bonds with other predators. What are their intentions?" The room fell silent. Jiwon felt sick to her stomach. "That's not fair. We're not monsters. We're just people." "I know," Somin said gently, "but try to see it from their perspective. Most species in the galaxy evolved as prey animals or as peaceful omnivores. True predators are rare, and the ones that do exist tend to be aggressive and territorial. Then humans show up and everything about us screams danger to their instincts." Ambassador Taewon stood and paced the room. "The Galactic Council has split into 3 groups. The first group, led by the Corellian hierarchy, wants to quarantine Earth. They think we're too dangerous to be allowed to spread through the galaxy. The second group, the Dravakian Consortium, wants to hire us as soldiers and security forces. They see our abilities as useful." "And the third group?" Jiwon asked. "The Veldari Communion wants to study us and build peaceful relations," the ambassador said. "They're scientists and philosophers. They believe every species has something to teach, but they're also the smallest group." Hyunwoo crossed his arms. "So what do? We can't change what we are?" "No, but we can control how we present ourselves," Captain Minho said. "We need to be more careful. Show them we're not a threat." Jiwon thought about this. She remembered catching Crix the Razorling. How natural it had felt. She had just been herself. But being herself had scared billions of aliens. How are we supposed to act like something we're not? Somin sat down next to her. You don't have to pretend. But maybe we need to help them understand context. Yes, humans are strong and fast and resilient, but we're also kind and creative and curious. We just need to show them both sides. Over the next few weeks, the situation got more complex. More humans arrived at the trade station, and every interaction was watched carefully by aliens who were both fascinated and frightened. Small incidents kept happening that made things worse. Hyunwoo volunteered to train with the station's security force as a gesture of friendship. They held a practice combat tournament where different species could demonstrate their fighting techniques. Hyunwoo entered, thinking it would be a good way to build relationships. He tried to be gentle with his opponents, pulling his strikes and moving slowly. He won every match easily. The video spread across the galaxy just like Jiwon's had. Aliens saw a human who was holding back and still dominating fighters from species that considered themselves warriors. The comments were full of fear and speculation. A human chef tried to introduce alien visitors to Korean food. She made kimchi, bibimbap, and grilled meat. Most aliens were horrified. You eat fermented vegetables? One alien asked. And you cook dead flesh over open flames? Like primitives? Some tried the food and loved it, especially the spicy dishes. But others saw it as evidence that humans were dangerous and unpredictable. The human delegation organized a cultural performance, thinking music and dance would show Earth's peaceful side. They played traditional drums and demonstrated taekwondo. 3 aliens fainted during the performance. The drumming triggered instinctive fear responses in their brains. The taekwondo, even though it was just a demonstration, looked like brutal combat training to species that had never developed martial arts. Jiwon spent her days trying to do her job, studying alien biology and writing reports. But she kept getting interrupted by requests for interviews or meetings with aliens who wanted to understand humans better. Some were genuinely curious. Others seemed to be sizing her up like they were trying to figure out if she was a threat. One afternoon she met with Veltharak, the Velcron ambassador whose razorling she had caught. He brought Crix with him. The little creature saw Jiwon and made happy chirping sounds. He remembers you, Veltharak said, sounding amazed. Razorlings don't usually form attachments to anyone except their original handler. But Crix likes you. Jiwon scratched behind Crix's ears again and he purred. I like him too. He's sweet once he calms down. Sweet, Veltharak repeated like he was testing the word. That is not a term anyone uses for razorlings. Dr. Kim, may I ask you something personal? Of course. Are all humans like you? Able to do what you did? Jiwon thought about this carefully. I'm not special. I grew up on a farm with animals. Any human with that experience could probably do what I did. And honestly, Crix isn't that different from Earth dogs when they're young and excited. We just know how to handle them. Veltharak was quiet for a moment. You say that so casually, but you must understand. To us, what you did was like seeing someone juggle knives while blindfolded. It looked easy for you, but it should have been fatal. I didn't mean to scare anyone, Jiwon said quietly. I know. That's what makes it more frightening to many species. You didn't even realize how dangerous the situation was. It was just normal for you. Veltharak paused. But I want you to know, not everyone sees you as a threat. Some of us see you as something wonderful, a species that survived impossible odds and still learned to be gentle. That evening, Jiwon met with Somin in the station's observation deck. They looked out at the stars together. How are you holding up? Somin asked. I'm tired, Jiwon admitted. I joined this mission to make friends and study alien life. Instead, I feel like I'm constantly being judged. Like I'm on trial for being human. In a way, all of humanity is on trial right now, Somin said. The galaxy is trying to figure out if we're safe to be around. It's not fair, but it's reality. What do you think will happen? Somin was quiet for a long moment. I think it depends on what we do next. We have a choice. We can hide who we are, try to seem less threatening, or we can be honest about our abilities and our nature, and trust that actions speak louder than fear. What if they decide we're too dangerous anyway? Then we deal with that when it comes, Somin said. But Jiwon, I've been studying the data. Yes, many aliens are scared, but many others are curious. They want to know more. They want to understand. We just need to give them time. Back in her quarters that night, Jiwon checked her messages again. There was one from home. The emergency message came through at 3 a.m, ship time. Jiwon was pulled from sleep by the sound of her communication device beeping urgently. She grabbed it and saw Captain Minho's face on the screen. Dr. Kim, report to the bridge immediately. We have a situation. Jiwon dressed quickly and ran through the corridors of their ship, the Teguki. Other crew members were doing the same, all looking confused and worried. When she reached the bridge, she found Captain Minho, Ambassador Taewon, and Hyunwoo gathered around a holographic display. What's happening? She asked. Ambassador Taewon looked grim. A colony ship is under attack. 10,000 Nixian refugees are aboard, fleeing from a war in their home system. Raiders caught them in the outer rim. The holographic display showed a large, slow-moving vessel surrounded by 3 smaller warships. The colony ship was damaged, with several hull breaches visible. The Nixians are a peaceful species, Captain Minho explained. They have almost no weapons. They can't defend themselves. Has the Council sent help? Jiwon asked. The nearest Council fleet is 3 days away, Hyunwoo said, his jaw tight with anger. Those refugees don't have 3 days. The raiders are Kreshtans. They capture ships and sell the survivors as servants. It's legal in their territory, but the Council officially disapproves. Jiwon felt sick. So they're just going to let it happen? Ambassador Taewon shook his head. The Council is debating it. Officially, they can't authorize military action without a vote, and that takes time. But we're only 6 hours away. So we go, Jiwon said immediately. It's not that simple, the ambassador said. If we intervene without Council authorization, it could be seen as humans acting aggressively. It could prove right every alien who thinks we're dangerous. Or it could show them we use our strength to protect others, Captain Minho said. Ambassador, those are 10,000 innocent lives. Children, families, elderly. If we don't help them, what does that say about humanity? The room fell silent. Jiwon could see the struggle on Ambassador Taewon's face. He had spent his entire career building diplomatic relationships, being careful, following rules. But now those rules meant abandoning people who needed help. Finally, the ambassador spoke. Captain Minho, prepare the ship for combat. We're going to save those refugees. I'll take responsibility for any diplomatic consequences. The next few hours were a controlled chaos. The Teguki was a diplomatic vessel, not a warship, but it had defensive weapons and a small security force. Captain Minho called for volunteers from the crew. 40 people stepped forward immediately, including Hyunwoo and, to everyone's surprise, Jiwon. Dr. Kim, this is a combat situation, Captain Minho said. You're a scientist, not a soldier. I'm also a medical officer, Jiwon countered. If people are hurt, I can help. And I know Nixian biology. I studied them in training. You need me there. Soman volunteered as well for the same reasons. The captain reluctantly agreed. 2 Veldari observers who were traveling with the human delegation asked to come along. They were scientists who wanted to understand humans better. Captain Minho warned them it would be dangerous, but they insisted. As the Teguki accelerated toward the crisis, Jiwon watched the human crew prepare. It was different from what she expected. The soldiers checked their weapons and armor. Yes, but they also checked medical supplies, backup communications equipment, and emergency rations. They packed extra of everything. One of the Veldari observers, named Kelsara, watched this with interest. Your people are very thorough. Most species prepare weapons for battle. You prepare for everything that could go wrong. Murphy's Law, Hyunwoo said, adjusting his armor. Anything that can go wrong will go wrong, so you plan for it. You even have a law about expecting failure? Kelsara asked, sounding confused. It's not about failure, Hyunwoo explained. It's about being ready for anything. Hope for the best, plan for the worst. During the journey, Jiwon noticed something else strange. The human crew was functioning on very little sleep, sustained by coffee and determination. They were injecting themselves with stimulants that would keep them alert during the fight. The Veldari were shocked. You voluntarily put chemicals in your bodies? The other observer asked. Doesn't that risk your health? Everything risks our health, Captain Minho said. We just choose which risks are worth taking. As they approached the raider ships, the tension increased. The Kreshtans detected them and sent a communication. The translator made their words sound harsh and clicking. Unknown vessel, this is Kreshtan territory. The ship we are capturing attempted to cross our space without permission. Leave now or be destroyed. Ambassador Taewon responded calmly. The ship you're attacking is full of refugees protected under Galactic Council law. Release them and we'll let you leave peacefully. The Kreshtans laughed. You have one small ship. We have 3 warships. You cannot stop us and we do not fear you. That's their mistake, Hyunwoo muttered. The Kreshtons opened fire. The Taeguki's shields held, but Captain Minho had seen enough. Return fire, target their weapon systems, and prepare the boarding team. What happened next would become legendary in galactic military history. The Taeguki attacked with precision, hitting the lead Kreshton ship's weapons while avoiding the colony vessel behind it. The Kreshtons were surprised by the accuracy and intensity of the human response. They tried to regroup, but Captain Minho was already moving to the next phase. Boarding team launch, he ordered. Hyunwoo led 20 humans in small assault pods toward the lead Kreshton ship. Jiwon and Soman stayed on the Taeguki, but monitored everything through their combat cameras. The Veldari observers watched in silence, their faces unreadable. The assault pods latched onto the Kreshton hull and cut through. Hyunwoo and his team poured into the enemy ship. The Kreshtons were waiting for them, outnumbering the humans 4-1. But the Kreshtons had evolved on a low-gravity world around 0.5 G. The interior of their ship matched that. For the human soldiers, fighting in low gravity was like fighting underwater. Everything felt slow and light, but they had trained for this. And they had one advantage the Kreshtons didn't expect. Humans were heavier, stronger, and faster than anything the raiders had fought before. Hyunwoo moved through the corridors like a ghost. His reflexes, trained on Earth's 1.0 G, were lightning fast in the reduced gravity. He could predict where enemies would be and reach them before they could react. The other humans followed his lead, working together with the kind of coordination that only came from pack bonding. The Kreshtons panicked. They had raided hundreds of ships, fought dozens of battles, but they had never encountered anything like humans. Their weapons couldn't track targets that moved this fast. Their armor couldn't stop strikes that hit this hard. Within 10 minutes, Hyunwoo's team had secured the command center of the lead ship. The Kreshton captain surrendered, his voice shaking with fear. "This is impossible," he said through the translator. "What are you?" "We're humans," Hyunwoo replied. "And we're here to save those refugees. Order your other ships to stand down or we'll board them too." The other 2 Kreshton ships withdrew immediately. They had been monitoring the battle and saw what happened. They wanted no part of fighting these strange, terrifying creatures from the death world. With the raiders gone, the real work began. The colony ship was badly damaged. Jiwon and Soman led medical teams aboard to help the injured Nixians. The Nixians were tall, thin beings with gray skin and large eyes. They looked fragile, and many were hurt from the attack. Jiwon worked without stopping, moving from patient to patient. The Nixians were frightened at first, seeing humans board their ship. But Jiwon's gentle manner and quick medical skills won them over. She saved several lives that day, including a group of children who had been trapped in a collapsed section of the ship. The children's section had lost atmosphere during the battle. It was in zero gravity and the walls had partially caved in. The gap to reach them was barely large enough for Jiwon to fit through. Most species would have panicked in that situation. The cold, the lack of air, the tight space, all of it was terrifying. But Jiwon had grown up climbing through tight spaces on the farm, fixing equipment in uncomfortable positions. She put on a pressure suit, clipped a safety line, and crawled through the gap while the section was still venting air into space. She found 5 Nixian children huddled together, scared and running out of oxygen. "It's okay," she told them through her translator, her voice calm. "I'm here to help. We're going to get you out." She kept them calm while Hyunwoo and his team cut through the walls to create a safe exit. The children's parents wept with relief when they saw their little ones emerge safely. They thanked Jiwon over and over, calling her a hero. But Jiwon didn't feel like a hero. She had just done what needed to be done, what anyone would do. By the time the rescue was complete, the human crew was exhausted. They had been working for 14 hours straight with minimal rest. The Veldari observers were amazed. "Your species can function at this level for how long?" Kelsara asked. "As long as necessary," Captain Minho said simply. The Galactic Council's fleet arrived 2 days later. They found the Taeguki guarding the damaged colony ship, while repair drones fixed the hull. The rescued Nixians were safe, fed, and receiving medical care. The captured Kreshton ship was under human control. 3 months had passed since the Nixian rescue. The Galactic Council had granted humanity provisional membership, which meant humans could participate in meetings and trade, but didn't have full voting rights yet. It was progress, but the underlying tension remained. Humanity was still being watched, still being judged. Jiwon had returned to Trade Station Epsilon 7 with Soman to continue their work. They had proposed a new project, the first Terran Cultural Festival. The idea was simple. If aliens feared humans because they didn't understand them, the solution was education and cultural exchange. Show the galaxy that humans were more than just warriors. Ambassador Taewon approved the project immediately. Captain Minho offered the Taegukgi's crew as volunteers. Even Hyunwoo got involved. Though he looked uncomfortable in the traditional hanbok they made him wear for promotional photos. The festival was scheduled to last 3 days, with different events showcasing human art, music, food, and sports. Hundreds of aliens had registered to attend. Everything seemed perfect. The first day of the festival started well enough. The main hall of the station had been decorated with traditional Korean lanterns and silk banners. Booths were set up displaying human crafts, paintings, and calligraphy. Aliens walked through slowly, examining everything with curiosity. But problems started at lunchtime. When the food demonstrations began, a human chef named Daehyun Kwon had volunteered to introduce aliens to Korean cuisine. He set up a grill and began cooking bulgogi, marinated beef over an open flame. The smell filled the hall, savory and delicious to human noses. The alien reaction was not what anyone expected. A group of Veldari scientists approached the booth, interested in trying the food. But when they saw Daehyun cooking meat over fire, they stepped back in shock. One of them, Kelsara, who had witnessed the Nixian rescue, asked carefully, "You cook dead flesh over open flames? Like primitives?" Daehyun looked confused. "Well, yes. This is how we've cooked for thousands of years. Grilling food over fire gives it a good flavor. But you have advanced technology," another Veldari said. "Why do you still use fire?" "Fire is dangerous, uncontrolled. It's a symbol of chaos. Fire is also warm and brings people together," Daehyun said, still trying to be friendly. "We gather around it to share meals and stories." The Veldari moved away, clearly uncomfortable. Other aliens had similar reactions. The concept of cooking meat over open flame seemed barbaric to species that had moved to synthetic food or highly processed nutrients thousands of years ago. Then Daehyun brought out the kimchi. The fermented vegetables looked innocent enough in their dish, but when aliens got close enough to smell them, several recoiled in disgust. "It smells like decay," a Corellian representative said, his face showing revulsion through his translator mask. "Are these vegetables spoiled?" "No, they're fermented," Jiwon explained, trying to help. "The fermentation process creates beneficial bacteria that's good for digestion. It's very healthy. You eat bacteria on purpose?" The Corellian looked horrified. "You invite microorganisms into your body for food?" "Well, when you put it that way, it sounds bad," Jiwon admitted. "But fermented food is common on Earth. Cheese, yogurt, pickles, all fermented." The Corellian hurried away. Other aliens followed. But not all reactions were negative. Some species tried the food and loved it. The Velkron ambassador Veltharic tried the spicy kimchi and his eyes went wide. "This burning sensation," he said. "What causes this?" "Capsaicin," Jiwon explained. "It's a chemical that triggers pain receptors. We find it pleasant in small amounts." "You eat pain?" Veltharic asked. "Deliberately." But then he took another bite. "Fascinating. The burn is actually quite enjoyable." The food demonstration was a mixed success. Some aliens were intrigued, others disgusted. Jiwon and Somin made notes for the next day, trying to figure out how to present human culture in a way that wouldn't frighten everyone. The second day was worse. The morning event was a traditional music performance. A group of human musicians demonstrated samulnori, traditional Korean percussion. 4 players with drums, gongs, and cymbals created complex rhythmic patterns that echoed through the hall. To human ears, it was beautiful and energetic. To many aliens, it was terrifying. The deep bass drums triggered instinctive fear responses in prey species. The sudden cymbal crashes made several aliens jump in panic. 3 Nixians actually fainted from the stress. Medical teams had to be called. "We didn't know," Soman said, clearly upset as she helped comfort the frightened aliens. "We should have researched this better. We should have known that loud, sudden noises would trigger prey instincts." Jiwon felt terrible. They were trying to build bridges, but every attempt seemed to make things worse. The afternoon event was a taekwondo demonstration. Hyunwoo and several other security officers performed carefully choreographed forms, breaking boards and showing self-defense techniques. They moved slowly, explaining each technique, trying to make it educational rather than threatening. It didn't help. The aliens watched humans practicing combat with the same horror humans might watch a nature documentary about sharks. The precision, the controlled violence, the fact that humans trained to fight each other for sport and self-improvement. All of it confirmed alien fears. They trained to hurt each other, one alien whispered to another, loudly enough for the translator to pick up. For fun. For discipline. What kind of species does this? After the demonstration, Jiwon found Hyunwoo looking discouraged. I was trying to show them that martial arts are about discipline and respect, not violence, he said. But they just see weapons. They see what their instincts tell them to see, Somin said. She had been taking notes throughout the festival, analyzing the alien reactions. And their instincts say that humans are predators. Everything we do reinforces that. That evening, the human team gathered in private to discuss the festival. Everyone was tired and frustrated. Maybe we should cancel the last day, Ambassador Taewon suggested. We're making things worse, not better. No, Jiwon said firmly. We can't give up. We just need to understand what's really happening here. Somin pulled up her data analysis. I've been studying the pattern of reactions. The problem isn't that humans are doing anything wrong. The problem is that everything about human culture is shaped by Earth's hostile environment. Our food, our music, our sports, everything evolved as a response to surviving on a death world. She brought up examples on the holographic display. Look at this. Human lullabies, songs we sing to babies are always about protection, protecting children from the dark, from danger, from fear. Because on Earth, those were real threats. Our stories are about heroes overcoming impossible odds because that was necessary for survival. Our games and sports train physical and mental resilience because that kept us alive. So what do? Captain Minho asked. We own it, Jiwon said. We stop trying to hide what we are and start explaining why we are this way. Show them that yes, we evolved as predators on a dangerous world, but we use that strength to build beauty, to create art, to protect each other. Ambassador Taewon considered this. It's risky. It could backfire. Everything we do could backfire, Hyunwoo pointed out. But Jiwon's right. Hiding doesn't work. We need to be honest. Meanwhile, unknown to the humans, a different situation was developing. Hyunwoo had been working closely with station security since arriving months ago. He had made friends with officers from various species, shared techniques, and helped improve safety protocols. His work had gained him respect among security professionals, but it had also attracted unwanted attention. One evening, while reviewing security reports, Hyunwoo noticed something strange. There had been 3 incidents in the past month where human crew members were harassed by groups of aliens. Nothing serious, just insults and intimidation. But the pattern bothered him. He mentioned it to Daehyun, a human intelligence analyst who had recently joined the delegation. Daehyun's eyes narrowed. That's concerning. Let me look into it. 2 days later, Daehyun came back with disturbing information. There's been organized activity against humans on the station. Someone's spreading propaganda through underground channels, encouraging protests and harassment. Who? Hyunwoo asked. I'm still tracing it, but it's sophisticated. Whoever's behind this has resources and connections. Daehyun showed him encrypted messages he had intercepted. They're planning something bigger. Something during the last day of the festival. Hyunwoo immediately went to Ambassador Taewon and Captain Minho. They reviewed the evidence together, and their concern grew. This could be dangerous, Captain Minho said. We should cancel the festival and increase security. If we cancel now, it looks like we're running scared, Ambassador Taewon countered. It proves that humans can be intimidated. And if something happens during the festival, people could get hurt, Hyunwoo said. We need to find out who's behind this and stop them. Daehyun continued investigating through the night. He traced the propaganda to a Corellian group with connections to the military. They believed humanity would inevitably become conquerors and wanted to act first, creating an incident that would turn the galaxy against humans. They're planning to sabotage one of our transport ships during the final day of the festival, Daehyun reported. Make it look like an accident.